Are you ready to hoist the colors? Now, time for the most in-depth look at the world of ECU athletics. Welcome in to Hoist the Colors with your host, Stephen Igo on 94.3 The Game. Watch the show live on Facebook and at 943thegame.com. Now, here's your host, Stephen Igo.
All right, welcome in to Hoist the Colors on this Thursday, December 21st edition of the program. Again, we are having our show this week through Friday, and then we will be off next week for Christmas, and we will be off on New Year's Day as well. We are scheduled to return on January 2nd. We'll have a show then, but again, we'll have a show today. Obviously, we're talking now, and we will have a show tomorrow, then take a break for the holidays. Philip Pilkington producing today. Kaysen Remaley in studio. We will talk East Carolina basketball. The Pirates get a big win over Delaware State. We also have coverage coming up at 1 o'clock. Scott Rogers and Rob Maloney will be on the call from Minges Coliseum as the women's basketball team takes on Charleston Southern. We will talk to Scott and Coach Maloney at around 12:30 and get their take on the upcoming game today inside Minges. Pirate women looking for another win. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. Big news on the football front. We'll lead with Damon Magazu is coming home, the East Carolina former all-conference safety, one of the best DBs really in recent ECU history, maybe all-time ECU history, is coming back home, as it's great to see Mags get the job. He is going to be the safeties coach at East Carolina. We put that news out here shortly before coming on the air. He will take the job of Trip Weaver, who's now the defensive coordinator at Austin Peay. So Damon Magazu coming home. We'll have more on that on hoistthecolors.net. Already a lot of former players weighing in that played with him. Shane Carden, even Kurt Benkert. Very excited to see that. Zeke Bigger. So that news going viral over social media. A lot of excitement there, and an alum coming back to coach ECU safety room. He's been at UNLV the past 4 years. UNLV will play in a bowl game December 26th. He will coach in that bowl game, from what I'm told, and then start his job at East Carolina, taking over for Trip Weaver. All right, we will talk a little bit of signing day coming up as well, but let's lead with hoops. Kaysen Remaley, you were in Minges Coliseum last night. Before we talk about the game, did you sing the national anthem with everybody else?
I did not sing the national anthem with everybody else. It was actually a funny moment because it's me and Patrick Mason, who works for the Reflector up there. It's just us up there. There's no one else. And, you know, it says, what do they say, please stand up? It doesn't say, it says rise.
Rise for the national anthem.
Rise for the national anthem. So everyone stands up. We're standing up. It's quiet. And then
how long did this go on?
I would say probably a good 20 seconds, a good 20, 30 seconds. And then me and Patrick look at each other, and we're like, what? And then someone at the bottom bowl started singing, and then everyone started singing. And then there was this one guy that was close to me and Pat. He was so off, but he was the loudest one. But, I mean, it went from just a awkward situation to an amazing situation.
I was talking to Darren about it, and I felt bad for Katie. He said he could just see Katie freaking out. She was, like, hitting the button for it to play, and it just wouldn't play.
But
I feel so bad for her.
But look, it was
it's not her fault.
It was also funny, though, because as soon as it ended, everyone was, like, cheering, and then it went quiet again. Because I don't think people knew if, like, the starting lineup songs would go off. But as soon as it did, everyone was like, ah. So, like, we had music with the starting lineup, but not the national anthem.
So, do we know what happened? Did the button just get stuck? Any idea? Phil?
I don't know. I haven't talked to anyone in the marketing team this morning.
You've got sources in the marketing team. You should know.
Yeah, I have not talked to Barker today, so I'm not sure.
We've got I can't read this on the air, but we've got an anonymous source that blames a player on the team for the anthem. We won't get into that. I can't confirm or deny who sent that in. All right. We'll have to keep that one for off the air. Okay, East Carolina. Man, it was just we were talking before we went on the air, Kaysen. It was a boring game, which is a good thing because how many times have we seen East Carolina in these types of games? They end up beating Delaware State 79-50, kind of coast-to-coast victory. I don't know if Delaware State ever led. They did not. So, yeah, wire to wire. and pretty boring, but I don't know. I'm excited about this game because there was no drama, and there doesn't need to be drama in this game.
And as Philip said when I walked in this morning or afternoon, he said we needed a boring victory, and I totally agree with that. And watching it last night from the tip, it was just a nonchalant victory. I mean, this is definitely wrong, but I'm gonna say like the only one that looked like they really wanted to be out there was RJ. To be honest with you, because he was playing hard on both ends.
Pretty sloppy start, although I thought the defensive energy was pretty good at times.
Yeah, Bobby, everyone had very, very sloppy passes. It was just kind of nonchalant because, look, I would say outside of Georgia Southern, this is the worst team I've seen in Minji's this year. Georgia's also, if you don't know, Georgia Southern hasn't won a game yet. They're 0-12, which is pretty remarkable, actually.
I feel like they've played some closer games. They just can't get a win.
And they've also played Tennessee, Michigan State, played some tough teams, but also that's tough. But yeah, just back on last night, I mean, Ezra did not look good at all, and I'm pretty sure he still finished with 10 points and 18 fouls per usual.
He fouled out, yeah. Even I checked the ECU stat broadcast at one point. They had him with 6 personal fouls, which I don't think was accurate, but he did foul out with 5.
Exactly. That's my point.
Welcome to the NBA, Ezra.
Right.
And then I'm trying to think. Bobby was pretty nonchalant. He hucked up a couple threes. He hucked up 1 3 at the buzzer, and it went in. Sear looked really, really good last night. He had Sear had 6 straight points last night. He had his own 6-0 run, and then he gets pulled out, which I don't understand why. I mean, I understand it's Delaware State, but look.
Played 13 minutes.
Yeah, the freshman's on a 6-0 run. And then, trying to think anything else. Oh, and then
Brandon had a game.
Brandon had a pretty good
13,
game.
15, 4 steals, 4 assists.
Yeah, one of his threes was from Clark LeClaire. It was, from half court. And then the big story, Cam. Cam didn't look the best in offense, but defensively, me and Steve were talking. It's just he has so much more flow. Cam has a very high basketball IQ, so he knows where to be at the right spots. Cam also knows how to rebound. He rebounds pretty well for a guard, just as he had 5 rebounds. And I also say this, I think this is huge for this team because all the guards rebound. How many rebounds RJ have?
RJ had 8.
RJ had 8 rebounds. Cam had 5 rebounds. That's huge.
That's 13 boards right
That's
there.
13 boards between your 2 and your 3 spot. That's big. And also, just like I post on the board that the quotes from Schwartz, Brandon Johnson, RJ Felton, just Cam is still getting his feet wet. He's still working. And then the last thing that was said in the press conference by RJ, he spoke up in the mic and was like, when Cam gets going, watch out.
So let's get into that conversation. We do have a comment on YouTube with the question, Mags, Jack Dover. Yeah, I led the show with a little bit about Damon Magazu. We'll have more basketball talk, and then Scott Rogers and Rob Maloney will join us in a bit. And then I'll kind of give some extra thoughts on the Magazu hire and signing day towards the end of the show when it's just me and Philip. So, Casey, when you look at Cam Hayes, okay, so he's played 2 games. He played 24 minutes last night. He played 25 minutes against Florida. Definitely still trying to find his rhythm. First off, I said to you, I feel like he's trying to force the offense at times rather than let the game come to him. Like some of his threes, you could tell he's just kind of antsy, like he wants to see one go in. So I feel like once he hits one and kind of settles down, just lets the game come to him. Because defensively, he moves well, moves his feet well. He's got pretty good, length for a guard. So to me, the defense looks so much more fluid when he's on the court right now. He's not getting beat off the dribble. He's in the right spot. So I think that's key for sure.
Yeah, 100%. And that's what Schwartz alluded to last night. And Brandon Johnson alluded to it too last night. He was basically like, he's a great addition. Things move well without him. He didn't say better. I think they move well, but we know they do move better. And then also just with the offense, I think that knowing Cam and knowing NCAA basketball players, that when you play a team like Delaware State, you're going to want to necessarily get yours and start hucking up some shots, which I have no problem with because look at the score. But, I definitely think that once we get into conference play, and I'll say East Tennessee State is never a bad team, so I think once we get into those games, he'll definitely be settled in and learn to get his spot. And his spot is catch on the wing, 2 dribbles, jab step, mid-range or layup.
Right.
That's his spot. He's never been an outstanding 3-point shooter, but I will say this because I've watched him play for a while. When Cam Hayes is hot from 3, he's going to make 3 to 4. But when he's cold, he might not make one, but that's just all there's to it. And Schwartz said last night they're willing to live by that, and there's no concern about it.
So the addition of Cam Hayes has had a direct impact on Quentin DeBunje. He played 2 minutes last night, didn't record a single stat. He played a handful of minutes at Florida, didn't really do much there. So what is Quentin DeBunje's role going forward for ECU? Like, how much does this impact that, especially if the other guards are able to stay healthy?
I mean, it's going to be hard for him to figure out, and I think that it's not just Cam coming back. I mean, if you look back at after the Georgia Southern game when he had 27 points, I don't think he scored maybe 10 after that, and I think he kind of did it to himself. I mean, yes, Cam Hayes coming in is going to definitely take some minutes from you, but I also think that if you backed it up with more 15 or 20 game performances after that, you're not going to get your minutes taken. Shit.
DeBunje, 27 points on November 20th, 4 points against Kennesaw State, 13 against George Mason, but then 7-5-3-0-0. Now, again, played 5 minutes versus Florida, 1 minute against Delaware State. He scored 7 points in 35 minutes against UNCW, 5 points in 18 minutes against Maryland Eastern Shore, and 3 points in 27 minutes against South Carolina. The other thing, it's not that Cam is lighting it up right now, but I just think defensively, like we talked about, Quentin will make some great blocks, and he'll make some steals, but I think the consistency you get with Cam defensively right now, you'll take that over maybe the inconsistency of Quentin.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that also if you look at those minutes after the 27 points, his minutes kind of spiked and he was starting. But then once he kind of went 7-5-3, those minutes kind of got pulled. And also, it's also a strange coincidence that at the same time Cam comes in, so it's kind of just like a double whammy for Quentin. And I mean, look, and those stats goes to show that Quentin is a rhythm shooter. When he is on, he's on. When he's off, he's off.
So he's kind of similar to Hayes. He has a little bit more size, but I think Hayes brings more off the bounce ability and probably more consistent defense.
And Hayes' passing ability helps a lot. Mm-hmm. Schwartz alluded to that last night, how when the starting five on the floor, that three-guard lineup, every single one of them can pass because Brandon Johnson can passer, Ezra's not a horrible passer, and then Bobby Pettiford is a great passer. So it allows you to spread the floor. And there were points last night where they went around the world last night with the ball, moving it quick. So
this team, I feel like, has played better over the last handful of games, really, despite not maybe having the results to show for it, Kaysen. Like, you lose the two SEC games easily. Both of them really could have been wins.
If you have Cam Hayes in that game.
Florida, you see them beat Michigan. And it's kind of a weird team because you're only, 7-5 right now. And it's not a good net. It's not a good record given the schedule. But, I feel like this team is pretty good. I don't know. Am I off base there?
No, you're definitely not off base. I think that with the addition of Cam, it's definitely a huge breath of fresh air with this team because now, as we're discussing right now, we now have a little bit of a depth problem because people are asking where.
It's not like Quentin's a terrible player.
It's not like Quentin's a terrible player. People are asking about Baela. Yes, he's not dressed. He's hurt. I don't know. We'll never know. But I mean,
it's
now
just how these things. We're still waiting to figure out about Corey Faison.
I haven't heard his name in 3 weeks, and I mean, it's a good problem to have, and coaches want to have this problem around the country. And I think that the future's bright with this team, and when Cam gets his feet back, this team's going to be exciting to watch.
All right, let's get a break in. We'll have one more segment with Kaysen talking basketball. Then we'll come and join Scott Rogers and Rob Maloney live from Midgey's Coliseum around 12:30 to preview the women's game. Also get into signing day fallout, the hiring of Damon Magazu as new safeties coach as he returns home, and much more. If you've got a question on YouTube or Facebook or want to tweet at us, let us know, and we'll get to it in our next segment. This is Hoist the Colors on a Thursday.
It's time to give thanks, and Greenville Toyota is making it happen with no payments for 3 months. Yes, we're thanking our customers with no payments till next year. That means extra money in your pocket, just in time for holiday shopping. Rush to Greenville Toyota.
Other restaurants claim their food is fresh and fast, but are they friendly? At Moore's, you're treated like family the minute you walk into their doors. With locations in Winterville, New Bern, Swansboro, Morehead City, and Jacksonville. We've been practicing what we preach since 1945. At Moore's, our barbecue is slow cooked and smoked over real wood daily until it's so tender it's falling off the bone. Combined with our fresh chicken, cooked-to-order seafood, and homemade fixins', we're sure you'll agree. If it's not Moore's, it's less.
Acre Station Meat Farm, along with Lane Angus Beef, bring you Farm to Fork Beef.
Stock your freezers now with affordable beef boxes, just in time for the grilling season.
Farm to Fork Beef brings quality local beef to your family. From your traditional butcher shop, Acre Station Meat Farm. Come on down to Acre Station Meat Farm and find out why we're #1 in fresh cuts and friendly service.
Acre Station Meat Farm, Highway 32 North, Pinetown.
Storm season is approaching. North Carolina weather can damage your roof, and before long, a small leak can turn into a big problem. Your home is one of your biggest investments, so protect it with Wells Home Improvements.
We work with all insurance companies for a hassle-free roof installation experience. Call us today and get 10% off your roof installation when you mention this commercial.
252-227-8403 or visit us online at wellshomeimprovements.com. Wells Home Improvements. Local, honest, dependable.
Hurry into Greenville Toyota. We're giving thanks and making the season bright with low payments on new Camrys and RAV4s. Only $289 a month. Need credit? Get pre-qualified now with no effect on your credit score. Rush to Greenville Toyota.
Climb aboard as we set sail and hoist the colors.
matey!
Back to the show with Steve and I go on 94.3 The Game.
All right, welcome back into the show. Again, big news today. Damon Magazu, former East Carolina All-Conference safety, will return to Greenville to be the new safeties coach at ECU. He will be named officially probably in the coming days, but got word this morning from various sources that he is taking that job. He spent the past 4 years at UNLV. Will again coach in the bowl game. We'll have more on that discussion a little bit later in the program. Also, more fallout from signing day. We'll have Scott Rogers and Rob Maloney join us from Minji's Coliseum to preview the women's game, which will be aired on 94.3 The Game. At 1 o'clock, they take on Charleston Southern. Kason Romeli is in studio. Philip Pilkington producing today. We are recapping the Pirates win 79-50 over Delaware State. And I wrote post-game before you even sent over the press conference, case in which you attended. Basically, my lead of the story was this is the perfect letdown scenario. You're facing a bad team. I shouldn't say a bad team, but a team that is overmatched. But you're about to go on holiday break, and so your heads may not be there. And so I don't know. Like you could have just rested on your laurels. All right, we played 2 good games against SEC. Maybe we didn't get the win, but we feel pretty good about ourselves. So I thought it did show that the coaching staff, whatever message they sent, got through to the guys yesterday.
Yeah, for sure helped. And I'll also say that I do think that part of me thinks some of them were asleep because they all did not play well. Ezra didn't have the best game, but I mean, you end up winning by 29. And also, I want to make a point of emphasis. I want to make a point of emphasis. This is off topic. But when Steven Igo doesn't show up to the games, we have the greatest spread of all time. Last night
media pregame food.
Last night we had Last night we had Philly cheesesteaks.
What is going on?
The time before he didn't come, we had barbecue, beef, and chicken nachos. When Steven doesn't come, great things happen, including 29-point wins.
I'm going to have to ask Scott and Coach Maloney what they had pregame today to figure out.
I think I'm going to go because you're not going to be there. Right. It's going to be great. Or are you going to be there?
I'm not going to be there.
Okay, then I'm for sure going.
It's my wife's birthday, and so I'm already in the doghouse from yesterday. So Scott says the spread is very good. So we're gonna have to.
I'll see you soon, Scott.
We'll have to check in and see what that spread is. But yeah, that's we got to figure that out. And I'm talking we as in ECU. Do they know I'm not coming? So then they
put away the hot dogs,
all the stops, put away the hot dogs, the hamburger juice. Which we had at a football game this year. All right. East Carolina is 7-5. They've got one non-conference game remaining. Extended break here. December 29th, East Tennessee State will come to Minges Coliseum, 7 p.m. on that Friday. If you could get a win here, as I'm trying to stall while I look up what East Tennessee State has done in basketball this year, they are 7-4. They have won 4 games in a row. Lost at Elon by 3, lost at Butler by 36, beat Davidson, lost at Cleveland State by 2, beat Alabama A&M, lost at App State by 11, and then they have beat Jacksonville State, Tennessee Tech, Tusculum, and UMKC. So they've beaten the teams you would expect them to beat and lost the teams you'd expect them to lose to. They play Utah State tomorrow and then have the break before ECU. All right, so ECU should be favored in this game. It won't be an easy one. East Tennessee State historically a solid program. If you get that win, though, 8-5 going into conference play, and we all know what awaits ECU there, how would you feel about non-conference if the Pirates get a W?
I'd give it a C-plus grade. I'd say your win versus Wilmington was great, and last night's helped by 29. But, I mean, look, USC Upstate still haunts me.
It does.
Northeast
it really does.
Still haunts me. Both of them are just.
Let's get our USC Upstate update. You keep talking.
They're horrible teams, and I mean, look. You're also right there with Florida. You're right there with South Carolina, and it's just. All right, Western Carolina's a good team. They beat Vanderbilt last night, 2 nights ago, in Vanderbilt, so they're not bad.
Are we sure they're a good team?
Yeah, I promise you, they have like a positive record.
Western Carolina beat.
They could have played 3 D2 schools and have a positive record. Come on, Casey.
No. I'm serious. Steven, look at this schedule. I'm serious. Western Carolina is not a bad team. I'm serious.
Okay, Western Carolina is 9-2.
They beat a horrible Notre Dame team. They beat
Middle Tennessee, which is usually pretty good.
They beat McNeese State, which is good. Shout out Will Wade. Yikes. Sorry.
Lost to Gardner-Webb and High Point.
They beat Asheville. Great team. In my opinion, that's a good team. And they beat Vanderbilt. They're not bad. I'm telling you.
They're not bad, but they beat USC Upstate by 17. East Carolina lost to USC Upstate at home, and that was on the road at USC Upstate, the Western Carolina win. So that one still bothers me. Now, Northeastern did play Virginia pretty decently the other day, right?
Yeah, they were up like 12 with like 10 to go or something, but then they lost by like 2, I think, or something like that. I know it was tied 52-52 with a minute to go. I know that for a fact.
Don't quote me. I am 95% sure the final score was 56-54.
Yes.
You are correct.
Correct.
Okay.
They were right there at it. They could have beat them. They had control of that game, but Virginia does Virginia things. But yeah, back in the non-conference, I think that
Northeastern is not a terrible team. Like, I can live with that loss. But
they're bad. They're bad.
We just have to hope that Northeastern goes on a run in their conference because, look, Drexel has already beat Villanova. Wilmington beat Kentucky, and there's been like 3 or 4 other teams in that conference beat big-name teams. So as long as they go out there and finish win 2/3 of their conference games, it's okay. However, that ain't going to happen.
I just don't think they're that
Northeastern is 160 in the net, which is actually pretty respectable because East Carolina is 214 in the net. Wow, ECU went from 248 to 214 by beating Delaware State. There had to be something else to happen.
Yeah, there were some losses. There was a lot of shakeup last night. UConn lost by 15 last night, so Seton Hall jumped.
That has nothing to do with East Carolina movement.
I'm not just talking about that.
I'm
not just talking about that. I'm just talking about there was a lot of shake-up last night. So there was a lot of movement all around.
Kaysen, just remind me, who was that team that won in Madison Square Garden last night?
Man.
Hey, your boys won too. They beat St. Louis.
Shout out Jared McCain. He played his best game last night. Good for them. I actually did not watch any of it because I was in Menzies. How did Foster play?
He played solid. I think it was the best defensive game they've played all year. They held the number 8 team in the country to a lot of bad shots, forcing a good amount of turnovers.
A pissed off Baylor team.
Yeah, did that because they got wrecked in East Lansing over the weekend. So. Foster looked solid. You could tell they were definitely missing Proctor, but I think all 3 of those guys stepped up, played well. Filipowski still didn't finish great around the rim. It's the thing that Duke really needs to work on, but overall it was a solid game.
Fair enough.
East Tennessee State is 209 in the net, and so that could be a game where ECU makes a small move, and then you open with Florida Atlantic. The net uses weird abbreviations. So, Florida Atlantic is 8 in the net. And that will be ECU's opening conference game. That game will be on January 2nd. That will be our first day back. Any chance can the Pirates pull the upset in Boca?
Yes, because anything is possible. Because Seton Hall beat, in my opinion, the best team in the country, UConn, last night by 15 points. Seton Hall is not very good. But look, I just want to get back on this net thing. I will live and die by this. And I know I can argue this all day. And people argue me, yes, I know it is end all be all in the tournament once you go or you're seeding. But look, it is just the dumbest thing in the world. I hate it. Okay.
I mean,
do you like Ken Palm better?
I hate them all.
Okay.
ECU should not jump from 248 to 214 because they beat Delaware State by 29. I don't care whatever happened last night. This shouldn't happen.
This has always stuck in my head because I remember it. Because I remember talking to basketball players that played on the floor when NC State beat Boston College last year by 37 points. They dropped 4 points in the net, 37 points. And as soon as I found that, I was like, okay, this is just the most bogus thing ever. And also, you can look it up. Steve Forbes for Wake Forest went on this rant one time after postgame saying, if you're not in the Big 12, you're not making the tournament. And then West Virginia made the tournament at like 16-13 because they were like 12 in the net and got waxed their first game of the tournament.
Bringing that point up with you talking about State dropping.
I'm sorry,
I remember one day. This is ECU related. We were in the baseball press box and we were playing some garbage team, and Chip Welsh was like, "Yes, by winning this game, we lose 5 points in the net. We would be better off just like saying the whole team has COVID and not showing up."
Net are flawed.
And then West Virginia and Oklahoma will play Marion the Sisters of the Blind and go up 89 spots in the net. It's ridiculous. It makes me so it infuriates me.
Kaysen is not a net guy. What type of guy are you? An eye test guy?
If the ball goes in the hoop, you're a good team.
That's what net he likes. He likes the ball going through the net.
I like the actual net, not the fake net. Gosh, I'm so mad.
All right, this is as heated as Kaysen has ever been. We're going to have to start bringing up the net a lot more. East Carolina, final thing here before a break, and then we'll get with Scott Rogers and Rob Maloney. Florida Atlantic on January 2nd, Tulsa at home on January 7th, Temple on the road, on January 10th. ECU has never won in Philly, and then SMU on January 13th. That will be the first 4 conference games. Is 2-2 the hope there, or do you?
I think you can go 3-1. Tulsa is not great, but they're not bad. Temple is bad, and then SMU at home will be tough. SMU is much improved. They're way better than I thought. They beat someone. They hung with someone well the other day. They're a good team.
NIL money.
And then the floor is 2-2. Ceiling's 4-0, of course, but I'd say 3-1. My prediction.
ECU basketball on the road. The floor is always.
That's a bad Temple team.
Hey, it was Arizona State that SMU hung with, by the way, and Arizona State got wrecked last night. They lost to Northwestern by. Well, it ended up only being 19, but they were down like 30-something to 13 at halftime.
Did SMU play Houston?
My phone's being dumb. Sorry. They've lost to Dayton, Wisconsin, Texas A&M by 13. They have not played Houston. They beat Florida State, but Florida State stinks.
What was that Wisconsin score?
69-61.
Yeah. It was that game watched with, and they kept that one close for a good bit. And Wisconsin's a good team.
Okay.
So they're not terrible, but they're not great. They're better than they were last year, 110%.
Yeah.
Last year they were the bottom, next to Tulsa.
They beat Southwest Assemblies of God by only 19.
Shout
That was
out.
the first game of the season.
Shout out Southwest.
Where does Southwest Assemblies of God rank in the NAIA net?
I don't know. It's a Kaysen question. He's your net expert.
Don't ask me about no net.
All right. Kaysen, we appreciate it, man. Hopefully you rest up over the holidays and don't look at the net rankings at all so you can do your Christmas break.
You don't have to worry about that. I'm not going to look at that. I'll be home. I'll be back on the 29th for some East Tennessee State basketball. Going this weekend, I'm going to NC State versus Detroit Mercy. Detroit Mercy's 0-12. So going to go watch some good ball there.
Two terrible basketball teams between Detroit Mercy and Georgia Southern.
Yeah.
They need to play each other in the toilet bowl.
For real.
All right, let's get a break in. We'll come back. We'll be rejoined by Scott Rogers, Rob Maloney live from Minges Coliseum. We'll preview the women's game, which we will carry on 94.3 The Game as they take on Charleston Southern. More on that after the break. This is Hoist the Colors on a Thursday.
Air Service is back at Pitt Greenville Airport, offering safe, clean facilities and flights from American Airlines. That means the short commute, quicker lines, and better prices that get you where you're going fast and easy. See it for yourself. There's great things inside at Pitt Greenville Airport.
You know what the problem is with standard belts? Usually you have to choose between too tight or the opposite, too loose. But with Anson Belt and Buckle, you don't have to choose. We got rid of the holes and instead have a track system designed for micro-adjustability. That way you can enjoy a perfect fit every time. Anson Belt and Buckle. Find your perfect fit today.
Living easy is the sound of children laughing as you make memories with neighbors and friends. It's the sound of nothing at all. It's the smell of the salt air. Hear the waters against the marsh grass. See the beauty of our coast. Bow Coast, located in Beaufort, North Carolina. Southern Living's best small town.
Air Service is back at Pitt Greenville Airport, offering safe, clean facilities and flights from American Airlines. That means the short commute, quicker lines, and better prices that get you where you're going fast and easy. See it for yourself. There's great things inside at Pitt Greenville Airport.
Hey, grab me one too.
R&D Brewing is proud to partner with the ECU Pirates, and now you can enjoy Pirates Brew, the official craft beer of ECU Athletics. Pirates Brew is a carefully curated light beer that embodies the spirit of ECU, a refreshing and easy drinking light beer. Pirates Brew by R&D Brewing is available now at grocery stores, local retailers, and at ECU athletic events.
Head over to your favorite store and enjoy a nice Pirates Brew today, or else you'll walk the plank. Hand me another Pirates Brew. Arr.
With Steve and Igo on 94.3 The Game.
Hoist the Jolly Roger!
Now, back to Hoist the Colors.
All right, welcome back in to Hoist the Colors on this Thursday edition of the show. We'll have some more fallout from National Signing Day coming up in a little bit. Also talk about the Damon Magazu hire as well to close the show. But right now we're going to go out to Minges Coliseum, 94.3 The Game. We'll broadcast the women's basketball game between East Carolina and their opponent today, Charleston Southern, at 1 o'clock. And Scott Rogers, Rob Maloney on the call. Scooter, how is the scene at Minges Coliseum as you guys approach tip-off?
The crowd is filing in for this early afternoon tip, but looking forward to it. It's a chance for East Carolina to win their 5th game in a row after really putting together their first big performance, or best performance, I should say, of the year since their first 2 wins of the season. They went through that rough stretch around Thanksgiving where they lost 3 in a row, but lately here they've won 4 in a row, and like I said, Monday night was honestly the best they've played since those first 2 wins of the year. And so if they can win that 5th game tonight, it'd be huge heading into the number 1 team in the country, South Carolina, next week.
Coach Maloney, longtime coach at D.H. Conley, and I wanted to get your take on this, Rob, as you look at ECU. They're playing their 2nd game in 4 days, clearly, but then they were coming off a 2-week break. And as a coach, how hard is it to keep your team fresh during that break, but also ready to go, and then turn around quickly and play this game right before Christmas? So kind of a weird schedule here. How do you think Kim McNeil's handling it?
Oh, I'm sure she's trying to keep things as normal as possible, and that's always a good time when you have a little bit of a break. She's probably making some modifications, looking at it's a reflection period, so you kind of modify maybe some things where you might have some shortcomings in some areas. Maybe you tweak some things, and then it's like Scooter was saying a little while ago. It gives you time to kind of get ready before you hit a big South Carolina team, and maybe you have some new tricks up your sleeve.
Scott Rogers, Rob Maloney on the call today. ECU women's basketball hosting Charleston Southern. Again, this will tip off at 1 o'clock. We'll carry it on 94.3 The Game. So, Scott, what do you feel like went right in the 65-44 win over George Mason that maybe the Lady Pirates have been struggling with early on in the season? And what has led to this 4-game winning streak?
One thing, when you look at the beginning of this 4-game winning streak, which that was Maryland, Eastern Shore, and Coppin State, those games weren't necessarily dominated by East Carolina. In fact, they were losing in part of those games. But on Monday night, I should say, against George Mason, really they just put together a complete performance. And a big game from Amaya Joyner helped that. She had 27 points in that game. She had double-digit rebounds. And when Amaya Joyner is playing her best with that size that she has in the paint, that helps this team so much. And, of course, you've got Janae McNeil still, who goes out there and gets close to 20 points every single game with her scoring. And, in fact, today she is 9 points from 1,000 in her career. So it could be a milestone day for Janae McNeil. But, yeah, Monday night certainly was a complete performance for East Carolina. And that's one thing that they haven't necessarily had since the beginning of the year. When they played Elon in that very first game of the year, USC Upstate as well, they were clicking on all cylinders. And heading into this win streak that they've had, they weren't doing that. When they went down to the Bahamas and played Ohio State and Seton Hall, they weren't coming close to playing their best basketball. And now that they're in the later stretch of this win streak, they certainly have been. That's one thing that helped Monday night.
Coach Maloney, as Scooter mentioned, Amaya Joyner coming off just a monster game in the win over George Mason, and 16 rebounds, 27 points, 6 blocks, and she's the local product from Farmville Central. And sophomore year, still a little bit up and down at times this year, but it seems like when her emotions are in check, she can play at such a high level. So how do you feel like when you have an emotional player like that, how do you try to handle that player, keep them even keel, even when things are going tough through adversity, to kind of play their best night in, night out?
And that's a tough question to answer from a coaching standpoint, but I think the biggest thing is you have to be consistent with how you handle those emotions, because that passionate athlete, you want all of your athletes to have a high level of passion at the same time. You got to be able to keep your composure. And I noticed last season, from the beginning, I saw that Coach McNeil really worked hard with her. Certain points of the game where maybe she was starting to run a little high, a little hot. You'd see her reel her in, bring her in, and then sometimes you have to let them make mistakes and try to find a way to work through them. I think this Charleston Southern game is going to really give an opportunity for her to be able to work through some of those things. It is a long maturation process, but in all honesty, Stephen, from a year ago to where she is today, Maya's shown a lot of growth, and there's no doubt, as you said, the impact she makes on the offensive end, the defensive end. She's only going to get better and better. So whatever Coach McNeil's doing, it is definitely working to date.
Scott Rogers, when you look at this game, Charleston Southern comes in struggling a little bit, 2-9 on the season. East Carolina, as we talked about, on a winning streak. what does Charleston Southern have to do if they can do something to stick around and make this thing interesting today?
The one thing they would have to do is score. They're averaging 58 points a game, which combine that with Kim McNeil's defense is certainly going to be tough for them today. And this is a Charleston Southern team that has struggled, and not necessarily this year. It's been for the past couple years. Their head coach, Clarice Wright, comes in with a 9-61 career record, and this team was picked to finish last in the Big South this year, and so they've got a lot to prove coming into here. But they've only won 2 games this year against bad opponents. They have lost 3 in a row coming into today, and as I said, averaging only about 58 points a game. This team does not score a lot. They don't have, really, when you look at their players overall, they don't have anything that sticks out to you in terms of scoring. And so if East Carolina can, keep on that defensive front and do what they do defensively, they should have no issue with Charleston Southern today.
Coach Maloney and Mike Schwartz talked about it last night. These games, though, they can be scary. You got Christmas break coming up. We alluded to it. South Carolina waits on December 30th. So, you could have a look-ahead situation here. Charleston Southern may be coming in as the underdog. So, early on, we should know if the Pirates are focused or not and how important it will be for them to maybe put their foot on the gas early and kind of assert their potential in this one.
Look, I could not agree more. And you were asking about the layoff earlier, and you talk about it. You've had exams during that time period. Now the student body's gone. Everybody's gone home for the holidays, so you don't have probably as many student fans as you normally would. So you have to be a self-starting team, as you already said. And I was preparing for the game and looking at a number of the stats. And you look at this Charleston Southern team, and their turnover margin is at a negative 5.9, where East Carolina is at a plus 9.7. The reason I bring that to you is, numbers don't lie. And I think Coach McNeil will do exactly what you said, put her foot on the pedal. You'll see a lot of defensive pressure to try to cause the Charleston Southern team into a high turnover rate. And so you'll see the East Carolina Pirates try to turn those transitions, the turnover transition buckets to create that instant energy.
We got Scott Rogers and Rob Maloney on the call. A few more things for you, gentlemen, while I got you here. I want to ask Rob about the Steelers falling apart. We'll do that in a little bit because my Broncos are in the AFC playoff mix as well a little bit. Right. Scott, when you look at baseball season coming up, man, the schedule was just announced here in recent weeks. You'll obviously be on the call once again on February 16th when Cliff Galvin's team opens the season versus Ryder. What stands out about this baseball season schedule when you look at it?
There's a lot of good things. You obviously have your typicals out there with your in-state opponents, especially the midweeks with UNCW. You have Campbell on there. Of course, you have the North Carolina series. But when you look at some of those other teams on the non-conference side, of course, you have Ryder to start the year. You have Columbia. You have good programs coming in here non-conference-wise. And sometimes an average fan might look at that and say, okay, you got an Ivy League team and you've got somebody named Ryder on your schedule. Well, this is a Ryder team that went into Coastal Carolina last year and won the regional last year. You had a Columbia team who is traditionally one of the best in the Ivy League every single year. And, of course, that's not even mentioning the programs you have in the LeClaire Classic this year with Purdue, Cal State Fullerton, and Southeastern Louisiana. Cal State Fullerton now with Jason Dietrich in charge out there. He has certainly brought that program back to where it has been in the past. Southeastern Louisiana has always been a solid program. Matt Reiser, who just got fired from there, is now at Memphis, but that's a program that's always been good in the past, and Purdue has always been a solid program in the Big Ten as well. And so non-conference-wise, this schedule is quietly a very good schedule for East Carolina.
All right, Coach Maloney, what's going on with the Steelers, man? Losses to the Cardinals, to the Patriots, to the Colts. They still are mathematically alive, as are my Denver Broncos in this wild AFC playoff mix, but it's looking pretty bleak, right?
Pretty dim. I think right now they're probably more preparing for the draft than they are the playoffs, that's for sure. You were talking about Amaya Joyner and handling the emotions, and I look at Pittsburgh and looking at people like the receiver, like Pickens, and you see Pickens, he seems to be a completely different player than he was a year ago, young, maybe sometimes lets his emotions get the best of him. And if you're not careful on any level, that type of attitude can simply spread throughout a locker room, and it can take the life and the energy out of a team. And so things are not looking up for the Steelers right now, and I think that, if anybody can solve it, Mike Tomlin can. But, there's a lot of speculation whether this might be his last year in Pittsburgh. I certainly hope not. I'm not a big cancel guy. I don't think that coaches on any level just suddenly forget how to coach. But it might be time for a reset with a lot of the personnel moving forward, though.
He is Rob Maloney and also Scott Rogers. They'll be on the call at 1 o'clock from Minges Coliseum. Appreciate it, guys, and have a good call.
Absolutely. Thanks, Stephen.
Thanks, Steve.
Absolutely. There they are, Scott Rogers and Rob Maloney. They're about to have the anthem at Minges Coliseum, so we'll let them go get ready for the game. Again, we'll have coverage taking you up to tip-off at 1 o'clock as the 6-3 East Carolina Pirates, winners of 4 straight under Kim McNeil, take on Charleston Southern 2-9. It'll be one of a handful of games we carry live on Radio 94.3 The Game this year. All right, let's get a break in. We'll come back. We will talk signing day fallout. I'll give my final thoughts on what East Carolina was able to accomplish on Wednesday's National Signing Day. We'll also get more into the hiring of Damon Magazu, what that means for East Carolina's defensive coaching staff on the football gridiron. We'll be right back on Hoist the Colors on a Thursday.
5th Street Hardware is the home of the $9 lunch special Tuesday through Fridays. $9 specials every day, including the famous Burger Day on Tuesdays, Flatbread Pizza Wednesday, the famous 5th Street Hardware Reuben on Thursday, and fried fish or shrimp on Friday. Plus trivia on Wednesday nights and live music every Thursday nights. And the Prime Rib Brunch Buffet has returned on Sundays. You heard that right. The Brunch Buffet with all the great items, including prime rib. 5th Street Hardware in downtown Greenville.
Tax credits are back. Get a 30% tax credit, up to $2,000 off your new Mitsubishi electric heat pump install. Let Comfort Master help you take advantage of the tax credits with a qualifying Mitsubishi electric ducted heat pump or non-ducted Mitsubishi electric mini splits. Mitsubishi electric mini splits are ideal for bonus rooms, garages, or sunrooms. If you need a new HVAC unit, call Comfort Master today.
Call Comfort Master. Call Comfort Master.
You can't name a lot of things that I didn't do. It's like a paper, like a book, not a Kindle. You outdated, I'm the one they getting into, and I break a sweat. Let's get it, 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 let's get it. Child, please, I don't need a child, please.
Are you game day ready? Anson Belt, the official belt of ECU Athletics.
Are you ready for a digital hair color revolution? The Color Master Factory by Chi and LG. A masterpiece of innovation, unlimited color formulations, limitless possibilities, long-lasting color. Chi.
This is about you, your family, and the health of all who live in Eastern North Carolina. This is about the transformation of a health system into something more powerful and more human, about creating new ways to treat disease and keep you well. This is about ECU Health, which is to say, it's really all about you. ECU Health. Minds, hearts, purpose.
Everything you need to know in the world of ECU athletics. This is Hoist the Colors with Stephen Igo on 94.3 The Game.
All right, welcome back into the studio. Final segment here. Again, we are live on YouTube, Facebook. If you got a question, let us know. We'll get to a couple of those in a second. Scott Rogers, Rob Maloney are inside Minges Coliseum. They'll have the call for ECU women's basketball 94.3 The Game as they take on Charleston Southern at 1 o'clock. We just previewed the game with those guys. We talked to Casey Ramaley earlier, recapping ECU's win over Delaware State inside Minges last night. So the big news today, Damon Magazu is hired as the new safeties coach at East Carolina, taking the place of Trip Weaver, who's on his way to be the DC at Austin Peay. Robert on YouTube says, any idea on who led Blake Harrell / Mike Houston to Magazu? Trip Weaver himself, ? No other real connection there. I just think from talking with people, and you're right, Mike Houston and Blake Harrell don't really know Damon Magazu. They know of him just based on the Trip Weaver connection, because Trip was a GA here when Magazu was a player under Ruff McNeil, so they had been tied together. I'm sure Trip and Magazu talked through this process, so you did have that connection. And just the amount of people that brought up Damon Magazu's name when ECU had a safeties coach opening, it seemed like it would be kind of an ideal fit. Now, Damon Magazu in a great position at UNLV. They just went 9-4. They play in the bowl game on the 26th. They played for a Mountain West championship against Boise. So he could have stayed there and maybe stayed in a good situation there. But anytime you have a chance to return to your alma mater, it's a special opportunity. And in the hire, from a publicity standpoint, already getting rave reviews. You've got former players, former people who were at Oklahoma when Magazu was a GA under Lincoln Riley there, very high on this hire. So I think it's a good fit. He'll have to learn the defense under Blake Harrell. That will be the biggest adjustment. But from an attitude, recruiting, energy perspective, I think it's a perfect hire for East Carolina. You needed an ECU guy on staff. You lost Trip, who was an ECU alum. Donnie Kirkpatrick, he was an alum, but he was an ECU guy. Same with Shankweiler in past years. So to me, you needed an ECU guy, and Damon Magazu kind of fits that. Philip, I know we were talking off the air. Damon Magazu was before your time, but it seems like Mike Houston's kind of winning the offseason. He's doing everything he can to re-energize the fan base. We'll see how it looks when the season gets here. But from a recruiting, transfer perspective and from a coaching hire perspective, I think he's doing a heck of a job.
Yeah, he is. And I think it's really key what you brought up there with Magazu and his relationship with Trip Weaver, because not that Trip wouldn't help the new safeties coach regardless learn some things, but obviously they already have that communication, just kind of knowing each other, knowing how each other thinks. So I think it could be easy for Trip to kind of give Damon some tips there, which will be great. Obviously, Magazu didn't play under Blake Harrell, so that's kind of on that. And then, your point about winning the offseason, I definitely agree. This fan base it would be very easy to be down after a 2-10 season, but I think everything that Coach Houston's done has the Pirates fans very optimistic for the 2024 campaign. Look, at the end of the day, it's all about winning games, and you got to show up and win next year. But still, I think this is going to help the season ticket numbers, the team boneyard support, and everything that we need to keep this national brand that we're trying to help us grow our national brand, I should say, and keep Pirate Nation what it really is. So, I love it. I think it's been a great offseason so far. Obviously, there's still some work to get done in the as far as recruits in the portal. I think I don't think we're quite to 85 scholarships yet, but I'm excited to talk to Coach Houston through spring ball and see how everybody's gelling, because spring ball really is just right around the corner. Not trying to rush basketball season by any means, but I really do enjoy it, or have enjoyed what's happened this offseason, and I think everybody I've talked to in Pirate Nation is very optimistic.
It's amazing the number of people looking at the board on hoistthecolors.net who were just, I'm done. I'm never coming to another ECU game again. And now they're like, dang it, I'm back in. I'm all in. And look, this is what the offseason does, man. We go through it with our professional teams every year. Like, I'm sure you hate life as a Panthers fan right now, Philip, but as soon as they sign or trade for somebody or make a draft pick, obviously it won't be a first rounder, unfortunately. But when that happens, you're going to get reeled back in, because the offseason is the best part of sports, because everybody has hope, right?
I guess they do, but I have a bad feeling I'm going to be like the Redskin Commander football fans that won't have any hope till Dan Snyder went by the wayside, and I might be feeling the same way with Tepper. But maybe we can talk about the Red Sox. Maybe that'd be a better analogy. It was a rough year last year. Maybe they'll make a signing that'll get me, because, I don't know about the Panthers.
A few more things before we get out of here. Signing day, of course, was yesterday. East Carolina signed 20 players to letters of intent, 18 high school players, 2 junior college players, according to the 24/7 Sports composite rankings, which compiles on 3 ESPN, Rivals, and 24/7 Sports own evaluation. ECU finished 65th nationally in the composite in the original rankings. Again, 20 players, basically all of them 3 stars. The one player who did not sign, Damari Williams out of Smoky Mountain High School, he did not sign due to academic reasons, just not at a point right now where he will qualify for school. So look for East Carolina to potentially place him at a junior college or prep school or help him with that process. Really talented player. Again, kind of a DB receiver type, 6'2", 180, good size. And so if he could, get that in order, he could find his way back here down the line. But just another drama-free day for the most part. I mean, everything that we expected to happen happened. I wrote about it on Hoist the Colors last night, kind of how the class came together. And it's kind of amazing you had a 2-8 or 2-10 season and didn't really have anybody decommit after the season, despite other programs trying to poach your players. So I think that says a lot about the coaching staff, the culture, their recruiting efforts, making the changes that Mike Houston made on his staff made a big impact on that as well, especially from an offensive perspective. They're signing 12 offensive players, and to keep all those committed and add after the offensive season they had, I think that says a lot as well. So a successful signing day for East Carolina. All right, Friday's show, we'll have Joe Sampson on. We'll make our weekly picks. We'll get his take on the Magazu hiring and signing day and more. Again, live game coverage from Minges Coliseum, ECU women's basketball hosting Charleston Southern. Here in a few minutes, 1 o'clock tip-off. Scott Rogers and Rob Maloney will be on the call from Minges Coliseum. We pitch it to them, and we'll talk to you Friday on HTC.
This has been